You're watching Open Agenda. Here's your host, Mike Goldberg. Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Mike Goldberg. I'm joined today by Jim Adkins of Mardell Springs and Joe White from Parsonsburg. We have a really big show coming up today in regard to the Wicomico County Nursing Home. You've probably heard at this point that there's been some issues that have come to light, and the executive and the county council are hopefully trying to seek some adequate solutions to this very important institution that serves the elderly in Wicomico County. So we're going to talk about what happened at the August 18th County Council meeting, and we're going to talk more about what will be coming up in September in regard to the nursing home as we all seek solutions. So thank you for tuning in. Stand by. We'll be right back. You're watching Open Agenda. Welcome back to Open Agenda. At yesterday's council meeting, the August 18th council meeting, the county council introduced emergency legislation to make the nursing home a department, with requiring council confirmation of the nursing home director and giving the council the ability to fire the director by a majority vote, a 5-2 vote. Bob Benson, the county council's attorney, explained the nuts and bolts of this yesterday.
Next item is Emergency Legislative Bill number 2026-11, an emergency act to add Chapter 49 of the Wicomico County Code titled Nursing Home to establish rules and regulations on the operation of the Wicomico County Nursing Home, the appointment of an administrator for the nursing home, and the establishment of a nursing home commission, and aid in maintaining good government, health, and welfare of the county. Legislative Bill number 2026-11 is being introduced as emergency action pursuant to Chapter 311G, which authorizes the county council to declare an action to be an emergency measure affecting public health, safety, or welfare in a matter which is suddenly and unexpectedly arisen, which requires immediate action in the public interest. Since the enactment of the Legislative Bill Chapter 5, Bill 5 in 1972, there does not appear to be any additional legislative action that has ever taken place with regard to the nursing home. We know that the nursing home is a wholly owned entity of Wicomico County with an administrative director, but there is no guidance or law that provides oversight for the operation of the 102-bed nursing home operated by the county. The bill authorizes the county executive to appoint the administrator with the approval of the county council. The legislation sets forth responsibilities for the nursing home administrator, including that the administrator shall meet with the county council at least quarterly to report on the operation and condition of the home. The emergency legislation creates a nursing home commission to advise the county executive and the county council on the operation of the nursing home. The commission would be made up of various professionals and interested persons and will meet at least monthly at the nursing home. The nursing home administrator is mandated to cooperate and meet with the commission. The commission is mandated to report to the county executive and the county council at least once a year on the condition of the nursing home. The bill also mandates that a personnel system for the nursing home shall be recommended by the county executive and established by the county council. To enact this bill on an emergency basis, the council must determine that a sudden and unexpected emergency has arisen that affects the public safety and welfare, and must enact the bill by an affirmative vote of at least 5 members.
Joe, can you summarize that for us?
Well, I mean, Bob basically talked about how vague the charter is when it comes to the nursing home, and even some of the research some of our team has done has found some various degrees of sometimes the director gets confirmed back in 2011 and even 2015. Sometimes they don't. And I think one thing that Bob did is he went back. I mean, Laura Hurley had dug out the original 1972 resolution that set the nursing home up under the county purview. Back then we had a councilmatic form of government. And since we've moved to an executive form, there just hasn't been as many updates. I mean, no one's touched this department in 50 years legally.
On the issue of whether it's a public or whether it's an emergency or not, I mean, the issue didn't arise prior to August 1st. I don't think anybody on the council, or at least I don't believe, had any concerns, and there weren't any generally recognized concerns with regard to the nursing home. Since August 1st, my understanding is that hundreds, if not thousands, of concerns have been raised to individual council members about it. There was a closed work session, to be blunt about it. The public comments that occurred after the closed work session seemed to be directly opposite to what was said in the closed work session. The concern that I personally have is that after we started looking at this, and Ms. Hurley found the 1972 resolution where it was purchased, there basically is nothing codified either in code or in the charter with regard to the nursing home. With respect, it appears to me that the nursing home has just existed for 50 years. The good news is nothing bad's happened in 50 years, but it's not codified anywhere. There is nothing in the county charter and there's nothing in the county code about the operation of the nursing home. And to me, the emergency is that there's nothing in the county charter or the county code about how the nursing home is supposed to be overseen, who operates it, who has oversight over it. And that's just frankly been discovered since these concerns were raised. Secondly, the law department has termed the nursing home to be a county agency. I asked the law department where they get that definition, because I'm not aware of anything in the county code or charter that defines what an agency is. But nonetheless, assuming that they're correct that it's an agency, they're suggesting that the provision in the emergency legislation that gives the council the authority to remove by a vote of 5 members the administrator would be in violation of Section 413 of the charter. My only point on that is that if Section 413 applies, when the county executive hired the administrator, she violated Chapter 413, because under Chapter 413, if she hired an agency head, that agency head had to be submitted for approval to the county council, and she wasn't submitted to the county council. I don't know whether the nursing home is an agency of the county. If it is, the person in charge of the nursing home was not hired in accord with the county charter. Therefore, she's not legally in office. If it's not an agency, then there's nothing in the law that says how the administrator is supposed to be hired and fired, and this establishes a process that for that to occur, it puts in place at least some mechanism that has been missing for 50 years as to what the nursing home is and what its relationship to Wycomico County is.
And I thought Bob did a nice job of saying, hey, look, we're either doing it wrong this way or we're doing it wrong that way. And yes, they're using emergency legislation, but ultimately I think they're just trying to get course correct and have it come under a similar purview as the rest of the departments.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, when the county acquired the nursing home, as you mentioned, we were under a councilmanic form of government, and the charter and ordinances simply haven't evolved to cover this situation. So there's a great deal of ambiguity that we really need to get worked out, hence the emergency legislation. John Cannon had a very thorough explanation yesterday of why this legislation has been put forth.
I really felt, Mr. Wilbur, in reference to the emergency legislation, I know it wasn't that long ago that we passed legislation in reference to Title Health, and that was done as emergency legislation. And from my perspective, there's tenfold more reasons to make this emergency legislation than there ever was to have made that emergency legislation, but we recognize the importance of it. So that's how we passed it. But I think there's even greater importance in trying to make sure we get this through as quickly as possible and establish the parameters that are necessary to try to right the ship. We're worried about, it's being proclaimed that there's concerns about the legal challenges we might get due to the fact this is emergency legislation. I agree 100% with what Councilman Shields said. I'd be much more concerned about the legal exposure we have right now, today, and what could possibly occur within the next month or 2 months should we have an unfortunate set of circumstances. Somebody passes away in this nursing home within the next 3 weeks. We're already exposed as a county. I think we need to take measures to show that we're being proactive to try to address these concerns that have been brought to our attention.
Oh, I think John and like Joe said, Bob Benson really hit the nail on the head with it. this facility basically has, I don't want to say been ignored, but nobody's looked at it in 50 years because it hasn't been a problem. There's been no problems out there. You've got a nursing home that is owned by the county, but the employees are not county employees that work at the nursing home. Who's in charge? Who covers the nursing home? Because as Joe stated, it was a councilmatic event in '72. There's been nothing to address who's in charge of the nursing home, what steps need to be taken, and the argument yesterday about making it an emergency legislation versus just legislation is strictly to get this handled in a timely manner. The amount of time it would take regular legislation would be, probably 4 months longer than emergency legislation.
I think because of the liability side point. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, because they've been made aware that there are issues, at least in some people's mind. I mean, that's one thing. We don't 100% know everything that's happened. We know there's different sides of the story, and rarely is either one of those right. But from a liability standpoint, if there's going to be a file claimed against the county, then the county council wants this oversight.
And if they just sit there and ignore it, the county's going to have a lot of liability. Sure. So they want to get it under control, get all the regulations in there to protect the county.
There actually has been a problem in the past, though, we've come to find out. Back in 2019, there were some issues. I don't know specifically what those issues were, but an RFP was actually issued, a request for proposals for management services. To the best of my knowledge, that RFP was ultimately abandoned because they were able to take internally the necessary corrective measures and get the nursing home back on track.
Look, we heard it in the public comments 2 weeks ago on August 4th that there was an attempt by Bob Culver, and which would have been that same timeline, to actually sell the nursing home. Mm-hmm. And look, I think that that's pretty speculative because there's not been an RFP out. I think that's a lot of conjecture, and I think that's the one thing I want to caution people on is, okay, let's stick to what the facts are and see and do the right thing as if with based off what we know.
Now, we do have a public hearing coming up and a second reading of the bill on September 15th. Hope a lot of people show up for that. What do you think is going to happen then?
Look, I've heard from people who feel like the nursing home does not have a problem. And I have not been there myself to know. This will give them a chance to come and explain that side of it. But we most certainly heard from dozens of people about their experiences, and they were not positive. So this would be a good chance for the public to say, hey, look, how do you want it to go forward? Like, how do you want this to work? And make sure that you make your voice heard at that public hearing on September 15th. It's a daytime meeting. It's a 10 a.m. meeting. If this is important to you, make arrangements to be there.
One of the good things about the legislation is they are proposing a commission, an advisory commission of 7 members. And the 7 members, I can't quote all 7 of them now, but they involve legal, financial, medical people who have experience that can make recommendations. And that was one of the things addressed yesterday. And I think that commission would be very well suited to make recommendations because you're dealing with people who know the law, who know accounting, who know financing, who know HR, who know doctors.
You know healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare. And they're coming in and advising the council or the executive who does not have that experience.
Well, we're going to move on and come back in just a minute with our next segment. We're going to explore the issue of the Wicomico County Nursing Home a little bit further. Stick with us. We'll be right back. You're watching Open Agenda. Welcome back to Open Agenda. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to continue our discussion about the recent problems at the Wicomico County Nursing Home. Going into the second reading of the emergency legislation that's going to be coming up on the 15th, what do you think the council should consider, Jim?
fine with what they have considered now. It's just, it amazes me that 2 weeks ago this issue was brought to the attention of the council. The executive stated that when asked why she wasn't in the room, she stated that the room was full and that she wanted to not take up a seat that someone from the general public could have. Okay, well, she used to have a seat behind the council table, which wouldn't have taken any seat from the public. So she could have been there if she wanted to. Yesterday, during this reading of the emergency legislation, there were probably 20 seats available in the room. She chose not to come in there and sit there. We have a problem at the nursing home. We have the public and the employees stating one thing, and the council is trying to address the concerns of the public and the employees. The executive is saying something totally different. But in 2 council meetings, she has chosen not to come into the council and address the problem and try to come up with a solution. It's just basically whatever the council does, she's going to come in there and fight it. There is no coordination to fix this problem. It's you're wrong, I'm right.
Good morning, President Cannon and members of the County Council, Julie Giordano, County Executive. I'm asking you when the time comes to table that emergency legislation concerning the Wacomico Nursing Home, especially because of the very concerning misinformation that was talked about. So just a couple of clarifications. Ms. Shaney, county tax dollars do not pay their salaries.
I didn't say that. I said to pay yours.
Okay. Well, they're not used for employees, so we use Medicare, Medicaid, and private pay. Also, it was stated that I violated the charter by not bringing Tina in front of you. You all saw Tina after she was hired by me. We did a closed session, and at no point in time was it brought up that there needed to be a confirmation. And the previous director was not confirmed by this council either. I would have brought her in front of you, and you would have confirmed her. And you want to know why? Because she's licensed, and she came highly recommended by the last director. Also, I find it kind of crazy that you all admit you don't know how it works, and you just passed legislation on it. It's insane to me. I have serious concerns that this legislation crosses the line established by our charter by inserting the legislative branch once again into personnel matters that belong within the executive branch. In fact, this council met the administrator and had no concerns at that point in time. You've met her. The other thing that's particularly disheartening is that this legislation appears to be driven largely by hearsay, complaints from disgruntled employees, and members of the public who simply don't have all the facts. That happened in history. It's called the Salem witch trials. And we see how that turned out. I'm so glad this is amusing to you all. This is a serious situation. Anyway, again, I find it crazy that people are calling you all for complaints when there is a poster right in there for a state ombudsman. Her name is Cheryl Sinkbell, to file a complaint. There's posters all over the walls of the nursing home for complaints. And you want to know why I know that? Because I've been there. And what's very frustrating, not one of you pass legislation, all 7 of you pass legislation, and you haven't even walked in the nursing home.
I know the nursing home.
You have not been in the nursing home with the new director since April, and you just passed legislation to ultimately affect it.
You don't know that.
I do know that. You have not been there with her.
Easy. All right, you let us.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. You should go and meet with her, tour the facility, speak with her about the operations, and hear her side before pursuing this emergency legislation. You're basing it off of what people said here, rather than actually going and seeing. I appreciate Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes. She goes there daily. So I appreciate her letter. I thought that her letter was great. But you all are passing legislation and you've never even walked the halls with the new administrator. It's unreal to me. Really quick, just table this legislation. One thing I have for you all, and I think that you all might find this kind of interesting. I have a paper for you all. This is one thing that Tina has changed since the last person was here. Mr. Benson, would you pass this around for me? What I'm showing you is this is how our nursing home was keeping track of vacation and sick time. Not on a computer, not on, Munis, on a sheet of paper like this.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay? 120 hours given, 240 hours given. But what's so concerning to me is not this. What's concerning to me is the cash out, cash out, cash out, cash out. This person was using their vacation time as their own personal piggy bank to write tax-free checks to themselves. This is the type of stuff that Tina has stopped. This is concerning, and these are the things that she's trying to change. So again, before jumping the gun and listening to everything else, sit with her, go there, talk to the residents. And that's what I'm asking of you. And I appreciate that you go out there, Ms. Shanier, you talk to the residents. I'm asking the 6 of you. Go through the doors of the facility with the new director before you make that legislation.
So my concern was bringing it up was we're not, in the name of transparency, because we want to be transparent, we aren't working with each other. We're not working with the administration at the nursing home to make craft legislation, and we're not working with our executive department to try and build something. We're just going straight from a closed session into emergency legislation, and we're not giving the public an opportunity to hear what's going on. That's what I'm saying.
She made a statement yesterday to the council. Well, none of you have been out there to visit the nursing home. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'd like to know, prior to all this erupting, when the last time she was out at the nursing home.
Well, and they addressed that later. They said that at least 3 or 4 of them had
Yes,
been out
have
there.
been out there.
Yes,
But it's just, it's showtime, and it's time. We're not trying to fix the problem. The council is, with this emergency legislation, to get control over this, but
I think the council needs to stay focused on limiting the liability that the county could have if there is as much problems as the folks who came back on August 4th said. Again, it's impossible for us to verify everything that they said. It's hard to believe that at least some of that or most of that's not true, or at least a perception that it is.
When you have more than 24 people give testimony, I don't think that we can just ignore that.
And they should not be ignored. And it was very thorough and thoughtful comments that they were making. And they stayed around, if we remember, over a couple hours through the whole.
They waited for hours before they had the opportunity to speak.
And the public needs to be able to have redress with their government. And this is right now is the only chance that most people get in our county, right, is at a county council meeting. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see the council get outside of their purview. Their purview is, if this should be a department, and it sounds like it should, then they should be able to confirm the director, and the county executive should still be able to set policy and still should be able to make personnel changes, unless there's a 5-2 supermajority. That obviously there's something egregious going on, and then the council, but they have that ability with all department heads now. So.
Yeah, with a problem of this nature, I think the solution is found in a cooperative effort between the executive and the legislative branches. But from where I sit, the county executive is not interested in making a cooperative effort. As you stated, she just wants to be right. And in this case, every indication is that she is not right, and that's concerning because it's going to make it very difficult to find an adequate solution.
Well, I think Delegate Shree Hughes yesterday, Sample Hughes said yesterday that it looks like a dismantling of the nursing home. Mm-hmm.
I must share with you, the day that I spoke with the administrator of the nursing home, my first question to her was, is the building being sold? And now I have since learned that the question should have been, are you dismantling the nursing home? Through the systems, this is a systematic dismantling approach. When you go from forcing persons out that have been there 20, 18, 12 years, and I've met with these employees. I'm not talking just to be from hearsay. This is real. We have about 70 employees that have either been forced or have been terminated, and terminated over a phone call. It's an emergency. And for the county attorney to make the statement that it's not an emergency, none of us here today are having to be escorted to the bathroom. None of us are sitting here waiting for a meal tray to be brought to them to eat. They're waiting, and they're not just waiting patiently. They're waiting. And then you have the staff that have to do double duty to make sure they're getting the trays out to the people, making sure they're getting change for bed.
When you bring in a new administrator or director, they're going to make changes. But you need to go into an operation, observe the operation, figure out what's wrong, and then start making changes. You just don't walk through the door and start,
She came in as a wrecking ball, essentially.
Well, but and look, I did not like the approach she took at the podium. Okay, but there was one point she made that, as a business owner who's dealt with recent government changes from the federal level and the state level, she brought up how they're calculating sick leave and paid time off. The state of Maryland, and we're such an unfriendly business state, has made it so much the job of the employer to document and document and document. A lot of folks don't know that the state of Maryland now has paid sick leave. This is news to a lot of people. Well, Julie brought up, she showed the handwritten notes. If that's still the way they were doing it, that does need to be addressed.
That's an archaic method, no doubt.
But if you come into the council chambers in the approach that she had, it is going to make it more difficult to work together with your legislative body, not easier. So at the end of the day, there also could be exposure to the county from somebody filing an FMLA claim. And I would hate to see that too.
Yes,
an employee.
But you have two different issues that I think are there with that yesterday. If that's the way they're doing the sick leave, it's antiquated and it needs to be corrected. The second part of that statement about that was that there was an employee using the nursing home for their personal piggy bank.
Yeah,
now you're accusing somebody.
That's a big accusation.
That's a big accusation, and you better be able to back it up.
I would agree. Now, she didn't name names.
No,
but that is a
yes.
pretty egregious
Yeah.
accusation. Now, obviously, if she has actual
has
proof, I don't want to see any of our tax dollars, or and not that the nursing home is tax dollars, but it's still a public agency.
Right. But it's just amazing to me, and I stated this yesterday, and I'll state it tomorrow, and as many ever days as it takes. If she's so adamant that somebody's using that nursing home for a personal piggy bank, and she's going to have it audited, well, let's audit the debit cards. Let's audit the grants. Let's audit the public works fuel. All the things that she has fought against as the executive when the internal auditor has tried to do these audits. But now she wants to go after somebody. So she's going to demand a forensic audit on that operation.
She's being mighty selective, isn't she?
You can't have it both ways.
Well, and that, I think that's probably the point the public should come and make on September 15th is you use the nursing home as an example, but this is how we want to see our government operate.
Right.
We want to see our executive and legislative branch work cooperatively on issues, especially when they expose the county to liability. And we want more fiscal oversight, particularly on a random and rolling audit system without any obstructions from either
Right,
branch.
either side.
Well, I hope that they can get this resolved, because the Wycomico County Nursing Home is unfortunately probably going to be my next residence. It may be yours too, so I hope we have rooms close to one another so we can talk about this some more. Guys, I think that's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for being here, and thank you for tuning in to Open Agenda.